Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we completed last week this profound portion of the Gita, the 12 yajnas, the 12 sacrifices. So as we've been explaining, the fulcrum, the pivot, the foundation, whatever you want to call it, of spiritual growth is yajna, sacrifice. In fact, if you look at it metaphysically, what has happened, which he talks about in chapter 3, if you remember, he did the analogy of the rain from yajna, right? You remember that? And then he says, therefore, the all-pervading Brahman always rests in yajna, in sacrifice. In other words, you are Brahman, the supreme reality. As it were, you have sacrificed that reality and have become this individuality. It's actually what has happened. So you've given up the divinity, the supreme being. How absurd it sounds, right? And taken up this individuality. It's literally like giving up being a billionaire and taking up poverty. It's like giving up health and taking up disease. Why would anybody do that? But we've done it. That's why you're born as this individual. So if you want to go back, it's the same way you came. Right? So if you've given up the Brahman, the supreme being, and become whatever your name shows here on the Zoom, you zoomed out and now you zoomed in to this individuality. So if you want to get back to Brahman, what do you have to do? Sacrifice this individuality. You have to give this up to get that. It's as simple as that. That's what Kabira says, right? Prem gali iti sankari tame dona samay. This lane of love is too narrow. Two people can't fit. जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं, अब हरि है, मैं नहीं. When I was there was no God. Now there's only God. He's enlightened. Kabira. Therefore there's no me. So it's as simple, it's one or the other. So that's why right from the early Vedas, they understood this, those great sages, and they made sacrifice the fulcrum of human life. So every ritual, every activity was, they did that ritual, sacrifice, the fire worship, sacrificing the grain, matter, and kindling the spirit, the fire. It's all symbolic. You all understand? The grain represents matter, the body, you. Fire represents energy, the consciousness, the spirit. So the more you give up the matter, the more the spirit is kindled. That's what the concept is of these 12 yajnas. So what you need to do in very simple language, of course they put it in a roundabout way, we all went through that, right? But I'm just summarizing. Every aspect of your life should be a sacrifice. In other words, you do something only if it helps you dissolve this individuality. You do something only if it helps you go to the higher. So you have a family. I've told you, everybody's stuck in the family. Nothing wrong with it. But how can you make these family relationships help you grow spiritually? That should be the question. So you should serve without any expectation. So it becomes a karma yoga. It'll help you grow. But you spoil it. You have expectations of your children, your spouse, all the time. So you're working. Of course, you have to work. Everybody has to make a living. But the attitude should be, how can I serve this organization? How can I serve in every aspect? So you don't have to leave anything, but do it in the right spirit. I know people who are in this field, helping others, literally, but the whole attitude is selfish. So they are not growing. You're making a waste of the whole thing. So that is the concept of the 12 yajnas. Just remember that. Whatever I do, and throughout the Gita he emphasizes that. Yad karoshi yadachnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yad kurushva kaunteya. So he says, whatever you do, it should be an oblation to me. Tat kurushva madarpanam should be an offering to me. Me means the self. Now everything is an offering to your selfishness. That is the problem. Everything you do, morning to night, how can I benefit, my family benefit? That's all. Deep down, that is your only interest. So what spirituality? Just these words you hear. Even here, people who've been listening and all. What is the deep down your intention in life? So you have to go deep and make it a yajna. Otherwise, you're not going to get any. You may know this Gita. You'll be like a tape recorder. Nobody uses tape recorder. You'll be whatever. A CD nobody uses. iPod nobody uses. Now where do you listen? Spotify. Okay. Spotify, you play the whole Gita. You'll be like that. Does Spotify understand anything? Is it grown with the knowledge? So everybody's like that. You know things, but you're not transformed with those things. What's the point? And how you transform is by genuinely going within and analyzing, where am I being selfish? So this whole portion is only to remind you constantly that you have to sacrifice for your benefit, not for the world. You may be helping the world, but it's for your peace and bliss. That's what he says here in the 31st verse, which we have to say. Eaters of the nectar. What a verse. Amrita bhujaha. What remains after sacrifice is the nectar. So what it means is when you sacrifice, nectar means peace, bliss, happiness. What remains is true happiness. You sacrifice fully, what remains is Brahman, God, infinite happiness. It's as simple as that. Even this world, he says, is not for the people who don't sacrifice. How is it possible to get to the self Other world, impossible. Even this world you can't enjoy if you're selfish. Just see how they construct it. But we'll get to that. Yeah, before we do, Shannon, you have a question?
Good morning. Yes, I have a question from the diagram that you provided about the 12 yajnas. In the center, you have limited ideal and absolute ideal. And I was wondering if you could maybe differentiate those for me and give me some clarity on what those actually mean in regards to sacrifice.
So, the first two yajnas are talking about the ideal, in the sense, obviously the goal is to reach Brahman, which is the absolute ideal, to reach the self, right? That's the goal of human existence. That is number two. But most people, that's there you go. That's what he's asking about. If you see the book, Swamiji's commentary, it won't be anywhere else. The 12 yajnas. So in the middle it says the first two yajnas are limited ideal and absolute ideal. So what does it mean and how do you practice it is Shannon's question. So you can get that out from there. So limited ideal means you cannot conceive self-realization as a goal. So he's being practical. In fact, in the Gita, he's teaching Arjuna not to aspire for self-realization directly. Of course, the whole Gita is to aspire to enlightenment. But the way to do it is to pitch up an intermediate goal, because it's very difficult to be inspired by the absolute goal if you're a beginner. I don't think any of you have an idea, let me cross this illusion and get to Brahman. It's very difficult. It takes time. Of course you can. So in the beginning, what should you have? An intermediate goal. Let me evolve as a human being. Let me be unselfish. Let me develop. These are intermediate ideals. Let me have higher values than what I have now. So this is the limited ideal he's talking about. So that is simple. So Arjuna is a warrior. His limited ideal should be, how can I protect the society? That's the duty of a warrior, right? That's what Krishna is telling you. So you're a doctor, your limited ideal can't aspire for enlightenment. How can I serve my patients? So that's a higher goal. So you should look for a higher purpose in your life. How can you be of service to a cause beyond you and your family? I've told you repeatedly. And why everybody comes back to the same thing is because you've been selfish all your life. It's very difficult to do that. It sounds easy, but you have to. Any other clarifications before? Yeah.
In the diagram, the 12th yajna is mentioned as eternal activity. We talked about like how inner strength is sacrificed and external activity is kindled. What is the meaning of eternal here?
Which eternal? Where?
12th yajna is mentioned as eternal activity.
Eternal or external? Put that on. External means your pranas, right? The actions. Your inner strength should be directed towards your external actions towards the higher, right? Eternal activity, you don't want eternal activity. You want to go beyond. That is what we're doing now. Eternal desires and eternal actions. We want to break that cycle. Francia?
Gautamji, these 12 jnanias are numbered, but they don't necessarily, like one doesn't go before another, or they don't go chronologically. They can all kind of just happen in different ways.
Yes, because you're not one time perceiving, one time feeling, one time acting. It's your life. See, he's trying to say this is the cycle of your life. So all aspects of your life you must convert to a yajna. It's not chronology. He's explaining it chronologically because life starts with receipt of stimuli, then you react in your mind intellect, then you act, right? So that entire cycle should be spiritualized. In other words, your whole life should be spiritualized. Doesn't matter what you're doing first or late. It's not first you spiritualize, late you can materialize, or vice versa. Every aspect you have to analyze to see how it can be used for the higher. I started this yajna portion by explaining to you all that the problem is the constancy, right? The why we don't grow spiritually is there's no consistency. So you do one action for the higher. Let's say you're getting up in the morning studying. It's a positive action. Rest of the day you're selfish. How is it going to help? You're negating all that good work you're doing in the morning through selfish, self-centered activity. Morning I'm studying Gita and whole day I'm fighting. My spouse, mother-in-law, children. What are you going to get at the end of the day? Right? You're negating everything. Seamus?
Yes, Katamji. Is it better to serve a higher purpose with a motivation that's tinged with selfishness than to not serve at all in action? In other words, can we act ourselves into a new way of being?
No, if you are genuinely working for the higher, why do you want to spoil it by a tinge of selfishness? Your attempt should be to be as selfless as possible. So if you're doing an unselfish activity with selfish motives, it's better, like you're saying, than being completely selfish in the sense you're going to help others rather than just helping yourself. But spiritually you're not growing because you're only creating more unselfish desires. You are indulging in that unselfish action. So you're not growing towards the self. That's the problem. That's why I told you the Gita is given out between the two armies. Kaurava army represents the bad. Pandava army represents the good, unselfish people. Gita is given out in the middle of the battle. In fact, he makes it a point to mention that in the first chapter 2 or 3 times. Place my chariot between the two armies. That's where the teaching begins. It's highly symbolic that the path to the self is beyond good and bad. So good actions we should do, but not polluted with selfishness. That's what it means. It should be purely selfless. Chitra?
Gautamji, at the beginning of today's class, you said that to be able to realize all these sacrifices consistently back in the day, there were rituals. In the context of present day, can we conclude that if we have realized the central message of the Gita, rituals across cultures, traditions, the world are absolutely optional?
Yes, I've told you that before. A person who doesn't have national consciousness should have a flag to remind himself of his duty to the country. But a person who's already a patriot need not salute the flag. Even if he doesn't salute the flag, he's already serving the country. The ritual of salutation is redundant for such a person. So you're right. If you're already being selfless, why do you need something to make you remind yourself to be selfless? It doesn't make any sense. So rituals are meant for people who need reminders. All of us need reminders. You just need less, that's all. You can't say I don't need any reminder. So we start this session with the prayer which begins with Om. It's a reminder that the goal of this session is to help you get to the reality symbolized by Om. Yes, Arun, you had something?
Gautamji, what you are explaining is a very beautiful explanation of what yajna is, and probably a little misunderstood. At least for me, it was very misunderstood. So I want to clarify on one thing. When it says that Rama performed Asvamedha yajna, was there no horse involved in it? It was. I mean, so the story doesn't go that way, right?
See, what you must understand, like I told you in those days, don't equate it to today. Those days, they had a ritual which the central theme was yajna for everything. So a king performed a yajna, don't go into details, to remind himself that the rule should be based on sacrifice, not selfishness. So anytime a person is coronated, there's a yajna. It's as simple as that. There's a birthday, there's a yajna. A death day, everything there will be a yajna. Because that's the central theme. So any occasion, they used to make sure that ritual is performed. How it was performed is different depending on the occasion. That's why there are different rituals. But the theme was that. Rama, you have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Yes. Do you have any technique to stay selfless all the time? Do you have any technique to remind us?
Technique is no technique. Technique is you have to build your intellect so that you're able to keep your mind on a higher purpose. And the technique to build the intellect is in the morning you have to sit and do a workout with the intellect, for lack of a better word, which is study and reflection upon Vedanta. So, my guru has a series of 10 books which include the Gita and Upanishads that you have to study in a very systematic, structured manner. That's the best way to build your intellect. That's the technique. So either you take the e-learning course in which he explains all the books over 3 years. You can do that online, a year at a time. Or you get those books and read yourself in the morning. And you can ask me the questions or clarifications and attend the talks simultaneously. But you need to keep working your intellect. No other way. No technique. No standing on your head. Blood flow goes to my brain and suddenly I'll become selfless. I have a desire for more and more money. And what is the technique? Breathe. Breathe in, breathe out, and suddenly your desire for money will go. You see, if you go into the world, there are millions of things, techniques. Basic technique nobody understands. Only when you have knowledge of the higher will the desires for the lower things go. So gain the knowledge. Now he'll say that in the Gita also. Throughout he says, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitrami avidyate. There is no purifier like knowledge. In fact, these next 10 verses, next 12 verses, 31 to 42, incredible, where he talks about the whole concept. Yathai dham si samidhogni. Just as fire burns fuel to ashes, knowledge burns all your desires into ashes. So, he'll give it. It's knowledge, nothing else. If you don't have knowledge, you can say, let me be selfless. The mind's nature is selfishness. The human mind, the very nature of the mind is, what can I grab for my own pleasure? And you have gone along with that. Your parents, their parents, all your friends, their friends, whole society is built on that. What can I get for my own pleasure? That's the mind. So only when you understand that that is not the right way to live, pleasures in fact and sacrifice, you have to understand that. Then you'll do it. Who will teach you? Only these texts have that knowledge. It's sad but true. Shanti.
Namaste, Gautamji. Between the selfless activity and selfish motivation, say for example, this is just purely for an example. I'm citing this. Say every 5 o'clock every evening, I want to just go to a bar and hang out with my friends. Pure example. But I want to improve myself. I want to be a better myself. So instead, I try to help some in a soup kitchen.
Okay.
Okay. So the motivation is to improve myself, to be a better me. But the desire and the mind pulls me back into hanging out in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to fight it, go into soup kitchen every day and
right.
Work on that. Now, isn't my motivation to work in the soup kitchen, isn't there a tinge of selfishness? Because I want to get out of this old habit, desire of hanging in the bar. And I mean, where does that, you know why? I mean, I'm not able to explain this.
You're not able to explain. Obviously, it's not easy. First of all, you must understand, which I have told all of you, the reason you live, the reason you exist as a human being is to find bliss. That is the purpose of your existence, is to find happiness. You understand? So, searching for happiness, you can't say selfish or unselfish. It's how you're searching for it. So what Vedanta says is, you are looking for happiness. True happiness lies in enlightenment. Why are you searching in the world, which is where there is no happiness, there's only sorrow? So that's the understanding which you have to get slowly. As you gain Vedantic knowledge, that becomes stronger and stronger. That real bliss and happiness lies in being selfless, not selfish. So,
I agree. But in order to get into that Vedantic state of mode of mind, one has to take baby steps. And so the first step is, instead of hanging out
first step is not that. Don't worry about hanging out or hanging in. First step is to strengthen your intellect with that knowledge. You work on getting up early in the morning and building your knowledge, your intellect. You understand? As you build your intellect, you will have the strength to withdraw to your capacity. First, it will start, like you said, baby step. You start like that. Instead of socializing 4 nights a week, it maybe become 1 night or 2 nights, So it's not that you can withdraw immediately. But behind all that lies that conviction which comes with knowledge that this ought to be done. So you build that part of you. And automatically it will translate into action. Don't worry. Yes, Umesh?
Yeah, Gautamji, 2-part question. Part 1 is, after the yajna, what do ashes signify? Part 2 is, why are the ashes connected to the concept of vairagya?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Wait, 31 is that, the remnant of sacrifice. Yajna shishta amrita bhuja. So the ash represents what remains after the sacrifice. So I'll explain that. That is the 31st verse. Got it? Yes, Roxanne?
It seems like our ultimate goal is only achieved by what we initially see as the ultimate sacrifice. And is there like a metaphorical reason that would be so?
What do you mean? I didn't understand the question.
Our ultimate goal, giving up the world, is initially seen as the ultimate sacrifice. Who wants to give up the world? It just seems ironic. And I was just curious if there's a metaphorical balance or reason that would be the case.
I just explained to you, it's not giving up the world. You're giving up the lower for the higher. That's the metaphor you should have in your mind.
But I'm just saying people initially see it.
Initially, because they don't have knowledge. Obviously, they will see it that way. See, a person who's born in a slum, he cannot understand that the slum is something to be given up. For him, his life is the slum. But when he understands that there is a far greater way to live, you can live in a beautiful high-rise apartment with all the facility. Only when he understands that can he understand, what am I doing here in this slum? You see that? That's why I was telling even the person before. You focus on elevating your understanding. There's nothing to be given up.
But initially, you don't feel that way. I'm just saying for the first step, how people start that first step of the journey seems. I just was curious because they seem both the stakes are so high.
The first step is to suspect that there has to be something beyond what you're doing. That is the first step, where you suspect, look, what I'm doing is futile. Is there something beyond this? That's the first step. Then you get on to understanding what it is. So if a person doesn't have that basic understanding to begin, they cannot relate to this knowledge. It will be torture for them. Like a spouse comes and you force them to sit with you. They are waiting for the lecture to get over. This 1 hour will be an eternity. And for you who are interested, you will say 1 hour's over already. It's like that. So the starting point of a seeker is just that suspicion. There has to be something beyond all this. You may be the richest person. Buddha was a prince. He understood, what is this? All temporary. The real problem, Roxanne, which you are nowhere close to facing, is people like us who faced it. Whether you have to make a decision to leave this fully, to go to dedicate yourself to understanding the knowledge full time. That is the scary part, which some of us had to go through. That you have everything available in this world and you say, no, there has to be something beyond and I have to explore what that is. What have you given up? And when I say you, any of you, what, along with everything, money, family, friends, all your bag and baggage is still there. Nothing you've given up. A little bit Vedanta we study in the morning. And then go back to sitaras and taras and this thing and that thing. All your stars and stripes. Go back to the... So, don't worry. You don't have to go through that. That comes later if you really want to make a serious effort. So now, just that suspicion is good. Now, what is it? Explore it to your full capacity. And as you keep exploring, the lower will keep dropping off. You won't even know. Shalini, what's your question?
Namaste, Gautamji. What you said, Gautamji, is so true, but this knowledge has made me a better person.
This knowledge has made you a better person. I hope so. It shouldn't have made you a worse person. That is troubling. No. As long as you're same or better, I'm happy. If you're worse, then tell me. I'm very happy that it's made you a better person. Of course it will. As you gain knowledge, the lower desires will go. It's a sign of... First sign of knowledge is that you are more caring, more unselfish, which you're calling better. You think of others which you never thought of. You go fill your gas at the station and you think of that person standing in the heat there, or the bitter cold filling your tank. You're sitting in the air-conditioned car with the music on. Oh yeah, fill it up. Thank you, bye. What about that person? So you'll open your wallet and give him something. for his trouble. First sign. At least you're aware of others around you. Whether or not you may not be able to give, that's up to you, but awareness will come. You're eating food, there'll be awareness. Why am I harming other creatures to eat this when I can easily live by not harming? If that thought doesn't come, obviously you're not understood anything. "31.
यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजः यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्य यज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तम."
So verses 31 through 37. This topic is titled "All Yajnas Culminate in Wisdom." In other words, to the extent you perform yajna, to that extent you become spiritually wise. You evolve. So the extent of your evolution is directly proportional to the amount you sacrifice. Sacrifice again means the internal giving up of that ego and egocentric desire. Nothing to do with externally writing checks or helping others. That could be a manifestation, but it's the internal giving up of that ego. So what he says here in this 31st verse is a very poetic construction. Eaters of the nectar, Amrita means nectar, the remnant of sacrifice, yajna, bhuja, go to the eternal Brahman. This world is not for the non-sacrificer. How then the other, O Kuru Sattama? So as I have explained to you at the beginning of this talk, if you sacrifice yourself completely, you gain enlightenment. You gain the infinite. Right? That's what he's saying here. The people who sacrifice fully, that is, it's also poetically put. You eat what remains after giving sacrifice is Brahman. In fact, that's what it means. What remains is Brahman. So, there's a river. When the river enters the ocean, it loses its individuality, right? But it becomes the infinite ocean. That's another example used even in the Upanishads. The river entering the ocean, the finite losing itself in the infinite. So the nectar here, Amrita, nectar means Mrita, death, Amrita, immortality. The state of Brahman is not only infinite bliss, but it's permanent. It never leaves you. It's immortal, absolute, infinite state. It's the finality. What remains after the sacrifice is complete. So that's why, coming back to Umesh's question, so what remains after the entire ritual is over is the ash, right? It's called vibhuti. So traditionally you take that ash is distributed to the participants of that yajna, of that ritual as a prasad. So traditionally you smear it in 3 stripes on your forehead. It means you have overcome the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. You have overcome the 3 types of desires and you've reached enlightenment. You advertise that to the world. I am enlightened. As it were, it's all symbolic. And just by going on putting ash, you'll get ash allergy. Don't keep trying that. I am enlightened. It's not just a mechanical ritual. It symbolizes that. So, eaters of the nectar, the remnant of sacrifice, go to the eternal Brahman. Now, this is absolute, but relatively, what does remnant of sacrifice, enjoying the remnant of sacrifice imply? Now, this is important. This we understood. You sacrifice yourself fully, you're enlightened. But relatively also we say you should sacrifice, right? You should be sacrificial. You should work for a higher purpose. Sacrifice your ego. So how does this verse apply? What is the implication of remnant of sacrifice? Anyone?
Less agitation.
Less agitation. Yes, that's the effect. You'll be peaceful. But what is the symbolism, implication of remnant of sacrifice?
Focus is on the action and not on the fruit.
See, what he's saying is, whatever comes out of the sacrifice you enjoy, which means when you're working, your focus should be on the action, not the fruit, not what you're getting out of the action. So in life, if your focus is on doing what you ought to do properly, that enjoyment itself is supreme. So whatever comes out of it is a bonus. And if you're doing the action properly, you will be successful. See, simple thing, you're cooking a meal. You must enjoy the action of cooking the meal. Not how will it come, will it taste good? And if you're cooking properly, it will taste good. Right? They don't cook properly, then they blame. The sun is not good. Moon is rising in the west. All nonsense. Don't know how to cook. I know one person, idlis, you can have a stone throwing competition. So hard, and I asked her, look, why idli is so hard? See, in America, the sun is not very bright, so it doesn't ferment. Neighbor makes the most soft idlis, even softer than India. Same sun. Neighbor's son. There's a limit to. They think I'm a fool, some excuse they'll give. So, action is not proper. You'll blame everything else. So, your whole life, you must just do what you ought to do. Whatever remains, whatever comes out of your action should be a bonus. The enjoyment is in the action. Remnant of sacrifice. That's what he means. And of course, what remains after the sacrifice is you work selflessly, the desires are reduced. So you're permanently peaceful. That is the nectar. But this remnant of sacrifice, that you must catch on to. So no focus on the result, just the action. So what a life you'll have. You enjoy the action and whatever comes is a bonus, which you enjoy. Whereas people hate their action because they're all the time working for the result. So their action is a torture. Monday morning is a torture. Tuesday torture. Wednesday torture. Right? Friday slightly better because 2 days are going off. Whole week they're tortured. Because they don't enjoy what they're doing. Attitude is wrong. So that's what he says. This world, Arjuna, is not for the non-sacrificer. If you're selfish, you cannot enjoy even this world. You will always be disturbed, always want more. How then the other? Non-sacrificer means selfish. You can't even enjoy here. How can you ever hope to enjoy the ultimate bliss of Brahman? The other world. Other world means beyond the world, the self. Oh, Kuru Sattama. Kuru Sattama, the best of the Kurus. Arjuna was a prince of the Kuru kingdom. It was the oldest kingdom in Brahmavarta, in the land of Brahman, which it was known those days, in the Vedic times. The oldest kingdom was the Kuru kingdom. And he is a descendant of those great souls. So he's reminding him of his legacy. You are the best of the Kurus, means you are an unselfish person. You can easily attune to these principles. Now, why are you behaving selfishly? That's what Arjuna was doing in chapter 1. So he's reminding him. So you don't have to read the Gita. Why don't you do an analysis of the world? Look at the richest people, the celebrities, there is divorces and bitternesses and rehab, constantly fighting with others, craving for more, wanting more. What a life. You want that, or you want to be able to hit the pillow and go off to sleep? That can only come if you're unselfish. No other way. This world is not meant for you. Forget Brahman. That's what he's saying. Yes, Francia?
Gautamji, what's the difference between the remnants of sacrifice and the fruit of our action? Are they one and the same, or is there a difference between the two?
Fruit of action is what comes out of the action, right? Remnant of sacrifice is what remains after a sacrificial action. Fruit of action could be purely selfish, right? Fruit means what am I getting out of the action? So it implies a selfish motive when you're craving for the fruit of action.
So if I were to say, whatever comes after sacrifice, it's a bonus, like you said, we get to enjoy it. We would be able to enjoy it, but we are not looking to enjoy the fruit of our action, because that fruit of the action is what leads to our sacrifice. Is that convoluted? I'm mixing it up.
Yeah, see, when you are selfish, your focus is on the fruit. You are doing the action only to get something. So while acting, your mind is always agitated with anxiety for the fruit. How can you enjoy your life? You're all the time disturbed. But when you're sacrificial, you have kept a higher goal, no doubt. But because it's a higher purpose, your mind is peaceful. You're able to concentrate on the present action. You enjoy it. That's the explanation. And since you're doing the action properly, whatever the action results in, there will be a fruit, right? You're working selflessly for your company. It will do well. You'll do well. Your work will you will get rewarded. But it's a byproduct. It's not the reason you work. That's what he's saying. So in fact, it's a bonus enjoyment. Your real enjoyment is the performance of the action. Incidentally, you'll be successful, which is incidental to you, but it's a great bonus. I've told you, how many people have told me, amongst you all, I got an unexpected bonus, I got a promotion, totally unexpected, because they were trying to at least follow these principles. And nowhere close to saints or anything, but at least in their own way, they were trying to be a little unselfish in their work attitude. See, one fellow, he genuinely takes care of his employees. One of our old students, one of my first one, long time ago, runs a very successful business. And he was telling me his competitors offer his employees, because he's in very specialized construction, a very high-end construction, double salary. Have you ever heard? His competitors are offering his employees double salary. They don't go. He says not one fellow has left. Because he takes care, they know this fellow cares for them. Those fellows, they'll give double salary, 6 months later they'll say bye. It's not you have to understand who you're working for. So this guy, when that 2008 crash came, that's how I'm telling you now after so many years. Because he called me. He was one of our first donors. He used to give a good amount, because those days we didn't have any support, So he called and said that, look, this year I'm going to have to cut down on the donation to Vedanta. I said, I have no expectation. You give more or less. I keep doing what has to be done. That's totally your prerogative. But he says, no, I wanted to call you to explain. Because of this crash, business has gone. So I have decided to cut down on my vacations and charity, cut down on charity, not eliminate it, because I have to keep my employees employed. Otherwise, I'll have to fire a few of them. I don't want to do that. I said, I think that's the right call. Even though I'm suffering. Not really. Suffering in the sense, less money is coming to us, to the foundation. Because I said, that's your immediate obligation. They are the ones who are helping you earn. It's your first obligation. Charity comes after that. He got a shock that I said that. He was expecting me, don't cut our support and all. So he, I'm saying this is his attitude. And he's not doing it to retain them. Bonus, they will not leave. You understand? So you do what you ought to do in life. Forget about what comes out of it. And whatever comes will be bonus, because you're already enjoying the action. You don't need that.
Gautamji, then the quality of action itself is limited by one's capability. Is this also saying you still enjoy the remnants of whatever action you're able to do with that intent of sacrifice?
Quality of the action is impeded by your capacity. Does this still hold? Of course, because you are functioning to your maximum capacity. That's the best you can do, right? Your capacity is a state level player. You're not an international player. But as long as you are functioning to that capacity, you'll be satisfied. Everybody is not Einstein, right? There's Einstein, then there are above average scientists, there's average scientists, below average also. But so whatever your capacity is, let's say you're an average scientist, you do the best you can. You're expecting yourself to be a world's Nobel Prize. Every scientist is not a Nobel Prize winner, right? It's like that. Then you'll be miserable. You get it? Principle is the same. $32.
Evam bahuvidha yajñāha vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam nyatva vimokshase. Thus, manifold sacrifices are spread out before Brahman. Know them all to be born of action. Thus, knowing, you shall be liberated. So, I will explain this in detail next week because it requires some explanation. But the general concept is Brahman, the consciousness, is the enlivening principle behind all actions, including sacrificial action. Right? So, what he's saying is, out of action comes the highest grade of action, which is sacrificial action. Most actions are selfish. But all actions, selfish or sacrificial, are enlivened by Brahman. So, knowing that the goal of yajna, the right action, is to get you to the source of action, you will finally become Brahman. Of course, we need explanation for this. So, we'll continue next time. And as I was explaining yesterday, so twice a year we have our retreats in the Catskills in upstate New York. And this year, the last one is in September 26 to 28. Topic, Kaivalya Upanishad, from the Vedas, the highest knowledge. So it's a beautiful opportunity to get out, get away from your environment and spend 3 days really digging deep into Vedanta. It's important that you do that periodically. So we've got a really nice new video some of the volunteers made about the retreat. So you can watch it on the retreat page. You got the email, right? With all the details and all. So any help you need or assistance, please feel free to reach out to us. All of you should try and attend. It's definitely a deep experience. And being together is important periodically. Right. We'll see you Wednesday, right? For the Q&A. Hari Om.